self is full of itself. You know, you talk about people, you know, you say he's full of himself. That's exactly what it means. He's full of himself. One of the things about Darija, Amiya, a lot of people don't think what these terms mean, you know, in Darija. But one of the things the Egyptians, they say, and they don't know what it means, but I'm convinced it's from their own spiritual tradition. If an Egyptian wants you to say, watch out, he says, خَلِّ بَالِكْ مِن نَفْسِكَ. You know, isn't that how they say watch out? خَلِّ بَالِكْ مِن نَفْسِكَ. But if you actually look at what it means in Arabic, it means empty your mind of your ego. خَلِّ بَالِكْ مِن نَفْسِكَ. Do the takhliya of yourself. That's how you watch out. If you, because the only thing that gets you in trouble is your nafs. That's the only thing. It's the only thing that gets you in trouble is your nafs. And so the Muslims were very serious about doing work on themselves. Now they're serious about doing work on everybody but themselves. They don't want to do any work on themselves because there's nothing wrong with them. It's America. That's what's wrong. It's Israel. That's what's wrong. It's Bashar. If we could just get rid of that guy, everything would be perfect. It's everything but where it all starts. That's why, and if you look at our condition, that's the whole basis of it. The Prophet ﷺ, he began by emptying them out. He made them vessels for the truth. But first he had to empty them out. Like the famous, you know, the martial artist who wanted to study with the master, and he goes and he meets this master that he's been trying to get the opportunity to teach, study with them. And he says, oh, and I studied with Master so-and-so. We did this. I did Wing Chun, and then we studied with him, and I did this system, and then I studied with this, I did this. And he's telling the master all these people he studied with and all these things he learned. And so when the tea came, he just kept pouring the tea, the master, and until the cup was just overflowing. And this man says, well, why are you, the cup's full? He said, so? He said, no, you should stop filling it because it's full. So it can't take any more? He said, no, of course not. If it's full, it can't take any more. He said, well, you're full, so I can't. It's the same thing. You're full. And you find this motif in many teaching stories about Hassan al-Shadhili when he went to meet Muli Abdul Salam ibn Mashish. And here's a man who went from Morocco. He was a great scholar, studied in the Qarawiyyin, and then he went to Tunis. He studied, he went to the East, and he was looking for a spiritual master. When he got to Iraq, one of the people of Iraq told him, he said, the man you're looking for is in Morocco. So he went all the way from Morocco to Iraq, and the Iraqi man said, no, you're looking for Muli Abdul Salam ibn Mashish. So he went back, and he went up the mountain. For anybody that's visited that part, it's near Tatwan. He went up the mountain to where this great sage was living. And when he first met him, he came in the clothes of the ulama. He had all these beautiful jalaba and Muli Abdul Salam ibn Mashish said, "Akhtasalt, did you do ghusl?" And he said, yes. He said, "Irja." He said, you didn't do. So he goes back, he does ghusl again, he comes back. He said, "Akhtasalt?" He said, yes. He said, no, you didn't, go back. So he goes back, and then on the third time, he got the point. He's obviously doesn't mean So he took the clothes of his servant and he put them on. He gave his servant his clothes, and then he came and he said, "Now you're ready to come. You have to strip away if you." And this is people don't want to do this anymore. We're like Jalaluddin al-Rumi tells a story about the barber. They used to do tattoos. So you go to the barber, you get your hair cut, you get a tattoo. Like now in America, right? And so he goes to the barber, And he tells him, I want a tattoo. He said, well, what do you want? He said, I want a lion. You know, people wonder why everybody's getting tattoos now. Tattoos are about the ego. You know, Descartes said, I think, therefore I am. Now they say, I ink, therefore I am. That it's a way of letting people know I'm different. I'm special. I've got this butterfly on my back. You don't have one of those, right? And then they get more and more. And they can't stop because it's not working. You know, you just keep trying to make it work. So he wants a lion because he wants to feel like a lion. So put a lion on my back. And so the tattoo artist, he says, all right. So he starts with his needling. What's that? You know, he said, that's the tail. He said, no, make it a lion without a tail. So he said, okay. So then he starts again. What's that? He said, that's the ear. He said, no, make a lion without ears. He said, okay. And then he starts again. What's that? He said, that's the mane. No, make it a lion without a mane. And then he does it again. He says, what's that? It's the stomach. He said, no, I don't want a stomach on the lion. He said, listen, even God didn't make a lion like this. I can't do anything for you. And Rumi says that why he's telling the story is that this is people on the spiritual path. He says they want without any work. They don't want the pain of sacrifice, of work. They want the finished product just there for everybody to see, but they don't want to do any of the work to get there. So historically, you know, Muslims, I think what we tend to forget about our religion is this religion is actually about getting close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's the point of it. It's literally to get close to Allah. And not only to get close to Allah, but to experience the divine in our lives, to actually experience the presence of the divine. That we're in a world that has angelic beings, demonic beings, and we share this space. There's angels that come with believers, and there's shayateen that come with the people of foulness and misdeeds. So, but generally praise is not a good thing. In our culture we have the disease of self-esteem. This idea that you have to praise people. When I was a kid, they had when you went like in a contest, like I used to be do different contests, but you always had first place, second place, and third place. So even if you had 100 kids, there were only 3 that were going to win a prize. Maybe you get honorable mention. Now everybody goes home with a trophy. I'm serious. Like, it shocked me because our son studied martial arts, and we would go and we went to these martial arts contests, and they'd get a trophy for losing. It really bothered me. Because what it does is it just encourages mediocrity. And you want democracy in a culture. It's a good thing to have people involved in the politics, but in those things that demand talent, you don't want democracy. You don't want everybody getting up and reading their poems. This is what YouTube does. Everybody becomes a singer. You know, American Idol. All these people that want to really do. It's just tragic. It's just so tragic. And this idea that we have to praise them and clap and no, it's good, and it has self-esteem, and you don't, right? No, it encourages people to create the kind of culture that we're living in. Turkey was a culture of excellence, ihsan, itqan. If you want, calligraphy. I showed today, we had a calligrapher, and I showed him some calligraphy that was done. And he was just like, he didn't even look at it. He couldn't look at it. He just put, and it was like painful. And it's like having Yasha Heifetz, and then you bring out your violin and kind of squeak a few notes out. Which is not to say that people need to learn. They start somewhere, but you don't want them performing when they don't know anything. And this is what the culture preserves. I remember one night, we had this poetry reading thing years ago, and people got up and read all these poems. Some people wrote poems like a few minutes before they went up, and they were horrible, one after another. It was just terrible poems. And I remember Dr. Winter, he just said, it'd be better if they memorized a good poem and recited it. That's what people used to do. They used to memorize poems they loved, and then they would recite them. And so, anyway. So, praising people is not a good thing. Generally, it's just not a good thing. Even people that warrant praise, it's not a good thing to praise people. And, our tradition is about self-effacement. It's about getting rid of the ego. It's not about inflating the ego. And we've got monsters walking around with inflated egos, prima donnas, dilettantes, all these horrible people that cause. There was a American folk singer who said that talent is never an excuse for bad manners. Just because you're talented doesn't mean you have the right to treat people badly. And there's a lot of people that's what happens. They become very good at something, everybody praises them all the time, and then they become tyrants. Especially if it happens from the time they're little. It's a terrible thing to do to a child. And I would recommend reading Tolstoy's What is Art? It's one of his later works. It's not a long work, but he talks about how dreadful it is, what we do to children by making them work really hard to become masters at ballerinas or concert pianists or whatever, and then they're there for a certain class of people as objects of amusement, and then they praise them.